listen to the statement. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président de la...
Mr. President of the General Assembly, Secretary General, Sir, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, distinguished delegates. I would like, Mr. President, to convey from the outset to you my sincere congratulations on your election to the head of the 76th regular session of the United Nations General Assembly. I would also convey my congratulations to the members of the Bureau. I can assure you of the full support of the Haitian delegation to ensure our work is truly successful. I would also like to commend the remarkable work carried out during the 75th session of the organization by your predecessor, His Excellency Mr. Volkan Bozkir, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey. He headed up the work with great skill and leadership, despite the constraints brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to congratulate once again the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, on his re-election to the head of the organization. It is no coincidence that member states have granted you a second term, sir, which I am sure will be crowned with success. I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to you for your ongoing support to the Haitian people and, most importantly, for the renewed commitment and involvement of the organization to my country. It would be remiss of me not to reaffirm the deep appreciation of the government of the Republic of Haiti for the Bureau's initiative of the 75th session of the General Assembly to organize a tribute on the 14th of July 2021 to His Excellency, in the memory of His Excellency President Jovenel Moïse. He died tragically from an assassin's bullets in the night from the 6th to the 7th of July this year. The messages of support and sympathy of governments, of member states, of the organization have been greatly appreciated by the Haitian people. I would like to reaffirm here from this rostrum my determination to do all I can to find all of the perpetrators, the accomplices, and those people who ordered this heinous crime. Nothing, absolutely nothing, no political maneuver, no media campaign, no distraction can deter me from this goal to bring justice for President Moïse. It is a duty to his memory, a duty to his family, and a duty to the Haitian people. The criminal investigation underway is a difficult one. It was a transnational crime, and because of this, we are formally requesting mutual legal assistance. This is a priority of my government for the entire nation. This crime must not remain unpunished, and the perpetrators, all the perpetrators, must be brought to justice. Mr. President, the theme that you've proposed for the 76th session, namely building resilience through hope to recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainably, respond to the needs of the planet, respect the rights of people, and revitalize the UN. This theme is extremely timely. Indeed, the coronavirus pandemic has sorely tested, to various degrees, almost all the countries of the world. This global public health crisis has highlighted inter alia the inequalities which exist between our countries. It has highlighted the weaknesses of our healthcare systems. This pandemic has also shown that only solidarity and cooperation between people can enable us to bring it to an end. Fortunately, Countries far and wide have understood this and have undertaken to share vaccines with the worst of countries. The COVAX program of the World Health Organization, as well as bilateral action and assistance at the global level, gives us the hope that altogether we can manage to beat this disease. Much is at stake for the future of humanity. Mr. President, the maintenance of international peace and security has remained one of the top priorities of the United Nations organization and has done so since it was set up. Based on this, the organization's activities mainly cover the areas of conflict prevention, the rebuilding and maintenance, and also consolidation of peace. We recognize that the UN has done a great deal to preserve our world from the scourge of a world war. However, we must nonetheless admit that numerous areas of tension and violent conflict continue to represent the greatest challenge facing our organization. We need to find the right, appropriate responses to the new threats that are facing our world. These include the rise of international terrorism, mass atrocities, cross-border crime, and other challenges such as extreme poverty and climate change. Climate change is a major concern for all countries in the world. Global warming, severe weather conditions, alternating between drought and floods, which affect agricultural and food production, and rising sea levels. These are all having a significant impact globally. There is an urgent need for us to take appropriate measures to slow the rise in temperature of the planet's surface. Thus, there is a need to act immediately and collectively. I would encourage all states parties to implement far-reaching measures adopted in Paris in order to avoid a climate disaster that risks imperiling the very existence of humanity. Mr. President, in the humanitarian sphere, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has recorded more than 80 million people uprooted throughout the world. These include almost 30 million who are refugees or asylum seekers. This is a humanitarian crisis, the scale of which should be of concern to everyone. In order to find a lasting solution to the issue of migration, there's a need to tackle the root causes of human displacement. I would urge the international community to strengthen urgently measures to improve living conditions in the countries of origin of political or economic refugees. In order to do this, states parties must recommit to the fundamental principles of the 1951 Convention. Together, we must find, in a spirit of cooperation, the best ways and means of ensuring that the rights of refugees be respected and protected. Over recent days, the images of the way many of my compatriots have been handled at the border between Mexico and the United States have shocked many people. We do not wish to challenge the right of a sovereign state to control the entry of foreigners into its territory or to send back to their country of origin those who enter a country illegally. However, we believe that many countries which are prosperous today have been built through successive waves of migrants and refugees. The issue of migrants must remind us that human beings, fathers and mothers who have children, are always going to flee poverty and conflicts. They will always strive to offer better living standards to their children. Migration will continue as long as our planet has both wealthy areas, whilst most of the population, of the world's population indeed, lives in poverty, even extreme poverty, without any prospects of a better life. Mr. President, it should be recalled that multilateral diplomacy, as part of the United Nations organization, has shaped our world for more than 75 years. It is increasingly an indispensable centre for relations between states. Indeed, if considerable progress has been made vis-à-vis the initial aspirations of international peace and security and for justice and prosperity for all, it is thanks to the collective commitment undertaken and a permanent system of dialogue and consultation that state actors have broadly engaged in order to find negotiated solutions to resolve their differences. Nonetheless, much remains to be done to achieve this ideal world that we all so deeply long for. To this end, today, more than ever, we need to bolster our multilateral system and make it more robust and more effective. Loyal to our historic traditions, the Republic of Haiti would like to reiterate its commitment and its desire to continue to work alongside member states of the international community to build a fairer and more equitable world order. Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen ambassadors, distinguished delegates. A little more than 2 months ago, I took up my post as Prime Minister in the absence of President Moïse, who honoured me by appointing me to the post just a few days before his horrific assassination. As soon as I became head of government, my main concern was to do everything in my power to ensure that as soon as possible my country's democratic institutions functioned again normally. This was the desire of President Moïse. It is the goal which has guided me to date and will continue to guide my action. Some of you perhaps are not aware of this, but I have been called to govern whilst practically none of our democratic institutions exist anymore or are totally dysfunctional. Given such a situation and seeking to resolve the major political challenges that face my country, in particular intolerable insecurity, a dysfunctioning legislative branch, and the weakness of the judicial system, given all this, I had to swiftly form a government in order to take government's matters into hand. But it's clear that only through dialogue with political parties and civil society stakeholders, only through this can a sufficient consensus be achieved in order to ensure socio-political stability. With this in mind, since I became head of government, I have stepped up meetings and discussions with a very varied array of national stakeholders in order to create a peaceful socio-economic climate. This is crucial in terms of organising a credible, transparent and inclusive general election as soon as possible. It is my belief that it's crucial to ensure that institutions function normally again by handing leadership of the country to elected officials who enjoy the trust of the population. Just a few days ago, the official journal published the political agreement for a peaceful and effective government during the transition period. I negotiated and signed this with the major stakeholders of our political class, as well as numerous civil society organisations of all stripes. This agreement plans for the creation of a security environment that can foster broad participation of citizens in the forthcoming elections. It sets up a mechanism whereby the government has to be transparent and accountable. All these sectors of national life will have their say in drafting a constitution that will be adopted after a widespread consultation process. This is an important stage in the process of re-establishing the rule of law and democratic institutions. Despite this broad participation, we remain open to continue discussions in order to achieve consensus. We want to ensure that other fellow countrymen are on board with this shared project, which seeks to give our country a new start. I have started discussions with the signatories to the agreement as to its implementation, and I will continue these discussions over the next few days. I have opted for the quickest path towards free, transparent, inclusive, and non-partisan elections. Some want a longer transition period, but along with many others, I believe that that is not the right option. I have not given up hope of convincing those who are still reluctant to join the signatories of this agreement, so that we can move forward together, seeking peace and ongoing dialogue towards lasting solutions facing our country. Mr. President, over and above the political crisis that I have just briefly described, there's also the impact of repeated natural disasters. Haiti is ranked one of the most vulnerable countries to natural disasters. There was a series of deadly, devastating disasters, including the 2010 earthquake and Hurricane Matthew of 2016 that hit the country hard. They were followed by a powerful 7.2 scale earthquake, which wrought havoc on the entire southern peninsula of the Republic of Haiti on the 14th of August this year. According to the available official figures, we have seen at least 2,207 deaths, 344 people are still missing, and more than 12,268 people have been injured. Thousands of houses have either been destroyed or damaged, as well as hospitals, schools, churches, bridges, and roads. I'd like to take this opportunity to commend once again the spontaneous outpouring of solidarity from the international community that swiftly mobilized with our authorities to provide assistance and aid to the victims. We greatly appreciated the visit of the United Nations Deputy Secretary General, Madam Amina Mohammed. She went to the areas affected just shortly after the disaster to assess properly the scale of the damage and to have a better understanding of the real needs of the people affected. I'm not going to quote all those countries and organizations that came and helped us in case I forget someone, but I wish to be clear that they all deserve our gratitude. I would like to urge the international community to remain collectively engaged alongside Haiti to help it to respond not only to its immediate humanitarian needs, but also to assist it in the reconstruction process upon which my government is working. Along with our technical and financial partners, I have started a post-disaster needs assessment, a PDNA. We should, over the next few weeks, receive an exhaustive needs assessment of our needs in order to undertake reconstruction. There's a need to build back better and in a more resilient way to better cope with climate hazards and natural disasters in general. Once again, we are banking upon your proactive assistance, both through existing mechanisms and also through new commitments. The focus on the reconstruction of the Southern Peninsula cannot and must not make us forget the fact that fighting poverty and creating wealth, these are some of the main priorities for my government. This is why we are going to continue to work on establishing a propitious environment for an economic recovery and for attracting both national and foreign investment. Our population is young. It needs decent jobs and better prospects for the future. Mr. President, today, more than ever, we need a more robust and effective multilateral system to enable member states of the organization to develop joint strategies to meet these major challenges. This should be part of a holistic vision of a better world for all by reaffirming our collective commitment to a stronger and constantly renewed multilateralism. I do not wish to conclude without inviting member states to consider the aspirations of the Republic of China, Taiwan, that want to and can play a non-negligible role in our organization's initiatives, seeking to preserve peace and international security and to promote cooperation and development between nations. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate that multilateralism has proven itself over more than 3/4 of a century as a crucial mechanism in relations between states. The United Nations Organization remains the main intergovernmental and universal instrument for building together a fairer, more peaceful, and more fraternal world. Let us ensure that it can continue to play its role as a forum for the people of the United Nations, where together we can find joint solutions to the problems we share. Thank you very much.